My whole world just started falling and collapsed around me. I was 22 years old, and I was experiencing, my feet started going numb, and I had pains in my legs. I went blind. My body was totally paralyzed. You can't see, you can't move, and you're saying, okay, you know, what do I do now? Where does your life go from here?
Nobody aspires to be a caretaker. Nobody aspires to have their spouse ill. But it is what it is. Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't like the idea of my wife pushing me around in a wheelchair. I don't like the idea of her doing different things for me and come home and have to take care of me. It's pretty rough.
I was first diagnosed when I was 23, and it came fairly quickly after the first symptoms that I had. And I was dealing with a lot of numbness in my legs and numbness in my hand. And so I had a lot of testing, MRIs, because by the time I was diagnosed, my symptoms were gone, but they would come back and go away. It's changed my mobility to the extent that, you know, I'm much slower.
Everyone with MS has a different set of symptoms. A lot of people have the optic neuritis. I've never had that, but then I have the weakness on the right side. People have relapsing, remitting. You know, it's just different for everybody. It's quite an incredibly obnoxious disease.
It's cruel because of the way it begins. It begins in the prime of life, during adolescence or college, or as people are just starting their careers, beginning a family. It's cruel because it's uncertain in terms of its course.
Multiple sclerosis is a disease of the brain and spinal cord that predominantly affects young adults, women 2 or 3 times more commonly than men, and it results in demyelination or loss of myelin, the protective coating around the nerves, and ultimately damage to the nerve fibers themselves.
It's changed my career. I was able to teach for about 10 years or so, and which is what I wanted to do. But then, you know, after about 10 years and my disease kind of taking its own interesting turns over the past year or two, and my son, it made me not as concerned with it. You know, he's what I look to when I don't feel good. He's what I look to because he gives me a reason to kind of just go, all right, you know, you feel like this, but you still have to get him to school.
25 years of, I didn't know what was the matter with me. And I also think now that maybe that many years ago, if some doctors suspected that I had MS, they'd go, well, let's not tell her because, you know, there's nothing we can do about it anyway.
I was diagnosed with MS 14 years ago, and at that time I was told to go home and go to bed. There was nothing I could do, and there was no known cause, no known cure, no drugs on the market. The Race to Erase MS and the Center Without Walls is very unique because it's a collaboration of the most brilliant doctors together working as a team.
In the last 2 or 3 years, we are now into stem cells. So we've been doing a considerable amount of work using embryonic stem cells, using stem cells from the umbilical cord, and working on stem cells from baby teeth.
We've developed a vaccine for MS that we're continuing to study, and we've developed a genetically engineered protein that can stun or turn off disease-causing white blood cells that we're extending into clinical trials.
There is real hope, and so I think that when you talk to patients who are in pain or not doing well, there's things that we have now that can help them that we didn't have before.
When I first went into this field, there were no therapies for MS. In 1993, the first treatment came out, and now there are 6 FDA-approved drugs.
A cure for MS is an achievable objective. We're going to get there.
You go with it. Get that cure for this scum-sucking pig of a disease. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, of course.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain.
We have come so far, and I know with the continued generosity, we will reach our goal and cross the finish line and find a cure for MS, hopefully in the very near future.
You have to fight. You have to get up every day and say, I'm going to make it through today, and I'm going to do things.